Hey Reddit. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post here, but after everything that's happened, I just need to get this off my chest. This isn't just your typical family drama. It's betrayal, manipulation, and straight-up insanity. If you've ever had that one family member who thinks the world revolves around them, then you'll get it. I'm 27F, and I've been married for 3 years. My older sister, Ashley, 30F, has always been the golden child. If she was happy, my parents were happy. If she was upset, the whole world had to stop until she felt better. And me? I was just there. The backup. The afterthought. The one who was always expected to give in. Growing up, it was little things. If Ashley wanted the last slice of pizza, I was told to let her have it because I was the nice one. If she threw a tantrum over a toy we both wanted, my mom would sigh and say, "Just let her have it, sweetie. You're younger. You don't understand." I understood just fine. Ashley got whatever she wanted, and I got used to swallowing my feelings. I spent years thinking I'd eventually grow out of being second place. That when we became adults, we'd finally be on even ground. Spoiler alert, I was dead wrong. Ashley got married 5 years ago to a guy named Brian. She always wanted kids, talked about being a mom nonstop. The problem? Brian never wanted them. He was upfront about it before they even got engaged. But Ashley, in true Ashley fashion, thought she could change his mind. They lasted 4 years before the cracks started showing. When she realized he wasn't going to magically wake up one day and say, "You know what? Let's have a baby," things exploded. She accused him of wasting her time, of lying to her, of robbing her of her future. He reminded her that he had never misled her, that she just didn't listen. By the time my fiancé, now husband, and I started planning our wedding, Ashley and Brian were in the middle of an ugly divorce. And let me tell you, Ashley did not handle it well. At first, it was little jabs. Comments about how I was so lucky to be getting married when her life was falling apart. How it must be nice to be planning a future when hers had been ripped away. I felt bad for her. I really did. But my wedding had nothing to do with her divorce. Then my parents got involved. I'll never forget that phone call. "Sweetheart," my mom started, her voice soft in that way she used when she was about to ask for something completely unreasonable. "Your sister is in a very fragile state right now. We were thinking, maybe you could postpone the wedding." I blinked. What? My dad's side like this was the most obvious request in the world. Ashley is struggling. It just feels a little insensitive to throw a big celebration while she's going through something so painful. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so insane that I thought they were joking. "You want me to reschedule my entire wedding because Ashley is getting divorced?" Mom made this little TSK sound, like I was being difficult. "Just for a little while. Until she's in a better place emotionally." No, my voice came out sharper than I expected. "Absolutely not." Dad sighed again, the way he always did when I refused to be the reasonable one. "Family should come first." "Oh, you mean like how you're prioritizing Ashley's feelings over mine?" Silence. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. "We've already put down deposits. Sent out invitations. I'm not putting my life on hold just because Ashley doesn't like what's happening in hers." Mom's voice turned cold. "So you're really choosing yourself over your sister?" For once. I snapped. "Yeah, I guess I am." They didn't like that. The next time I called, they barely spoke to me. Short answers. No warmth. Like I had personally betrayed them. And Ashley? She stopped with the passive-aggressive comments and went full nuclear. I found out through a cousin that she was telling everyone that I was the reason Brian left her. Apparently, I had been whispering in his ear for years, convincing him to leave. Telling him he deserved better. That I was so jealous of her life. I couldn't stand the thought of her being happy before me. I nearly threw my phone across the room when I heard that. I barely even knew Brian outside of family gatherings. We'd had, like, 5 actual conversations in the whole time they were married. And now Ashley was telling people I broke up her marriage? The worst part? Some people believed her. Relatives I had known my whole life started giving me the cold shoulder. Some even blocked me without saying a word. I tried to clear my name, but it was too late. Ashley had poisoned the well, and my parents? They backed her up. By the time my wedding day arrived, nearly my entire family had abandoned me. I kept telling myself it wouldn't matter. That I still had my fiancé, my friends, his amazing family. But when I walked down the aisle and saw those empty seats, it felt like a knife to the gut. I put on a brave face, smiled for the pictures, pretended I wasn't devastated. But when I got home that night, still in my wedding dress, I sat on the edge of the bed and just sobbed. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just losing Ashley. I was losing all of them. And honestly, maybe that was for the best. I went no contact after that. No calls. No texts. I grieved my family like they had died, because in a way, they had. For 3 years, I focused on building a life with my husband. I healed. I moved on. And then, a few weeks ago, I made a huge mistake. I posted a pregnancy announcement on social media. I didn't even think about Ashley or my parents when I did it. As far as I was concerned, they weren't part of my life anymore. But they were still watching. Because within hours, my phone rang. I stared at the screen. My mom's name flashed across it. 3 years of silence. Not a single word. And now, suddenly, she wanted to talk? My gut told me to ignore it. But against my better judgment, I answered. Hello. Oh, sweetie. Mom's voice was too bright, too cheerful. We just saw the news. Congratulations. I said nothing. I was waiting for the catch. And then she dropped the bomb. You know, she continued, Ashley has been struggling. She's been trying to have a baby since the divorce, but she can't. I felt my stomach twist. I knew exactly where this was going. Mom sighed dramatically. We were thinking, maybe this is your chance to make things right. I closed my eyes. Make things right? Yes. Ashley is heartbroken. Since she can't have children, we thought, well, wouldn't it be wonderful if she could help raise yours? Silence. Then, in the softest, most manipulative voice I had ever heard, she added, wouldn't it be beautiful if your baby had 2 mothers? I nearly dropped the phone. This wasn't just about bonding. Ashley wanted my child. And they actually thought I would say yes. I gripped the phone so tightly my hand ached. Are you? I stopped myself, exhaling sharply. Are you seriously asking me to share my child with Ashley? Mom sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. Sweetheart, don't be so dramatic. No one's saying you have to give the baby up. Oh, really? I cut her off, my voice shaking with rage. Because it sounds like you're asking me to hand over my child just to make Ashley feel better about her life. She just wants to be involved, Mom pressed. Think about how much it would mean to her. She's been through so much. And you know, the baby will still be family. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Oh, you mean like how I was family when she ruined my wedding? When she turned everyone against me? Where was all this talk about family then? There was a pause. Then Mom said something that made my blood run ice cold. She wouldn't feel like this if you hadn't taken everything from her. I froze. What? Mom sighed again, like she was talking to a child who just didn't understand. You got the perfect marriage. The perfect husband. And now a baby? Of course she's struggling. It's like, everything she ever wanted, you just took. I felt sick. They really believed that. They actually thought my entire life, my happiness, my relationship, my baby was something I had stolen from Ashley. Like it had somehow belonged to her first. My fingers tightened around the phone. You know what? I don't care what Ashley is struggling with. I don't care how unfair she thinks life is. She's not entitled to my child. And if you bring this up again, you'll never hear from me again. Mom gasped, like I had just threatened her life. You don't mean that. I do. You'd really cut us off, she whispered. Over this? I swallowed, my throat tight. I already did. 3 years ago. And then, before she could say another word, I hung up. I stood there, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my skull. I wanted to believe that was the end of it. That they'd realize how completely unhinged they sounded and just let it go. But deep down, I knew better. Ashley never let things go. And this? This was far from over. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. The next day, my dad called. I stared at my phone as it rang. My hands felt weirdly numb. I knew if I answered, it would just be another round of guilt-tripping and manipulation. I almost ignored it. But then, at the last second, I picked up. Dad. A long sigh on the other end. Your mother told me what happened. I didn't say anything. I'm disappointed in you. His voice was low, almost tired. This could have been an opportunity to fix things. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Fix things? You mean let Ashley use my baby as an emotional support animal? She's your sister. No, she's your daughter. I shot back. And for some reason, that's always meant more to you than the fact that I'm yours too. Another sigh. You always think we favor her, eh? Because you do. Silence. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had won an argument with my father. He had nothing to say because he knew I was right. So he changed tactics. Look, he said finally. We're just trying to bring the family back together. And this baby, this could be a chance for all of us to move forward. I clenched my jaw. That's what this was really about. It wasn't just about Ashley. It was about them too. They saw my pregnancy as a reset button, a way to force their way back into my life without ever acknowledging what they did. They thought I'd forget how they abandoned me at my wedding, how they let Ashley drag my name through the mud, how they had no problem cutting me out until I had something they wanted. My voice came out flat. We're not moving forward. We're done. Dad exhaled sharply, like I had just personally offended him. You're being cruel. There it was. The final guilt trip. I smiled bitterly. Yeah? Where was this energy when Ashley was being cruel to me? He didn't answer. So I hung up. And that should have been the end of it. But of course, it wasn't. ####. The next morning, the social media posts started. Ashley was the first. Some people are so selfish, they'd rather see their own family suffer than offer even a little kindness. I rolled my eyes. Classic vague posting. Classic Ashley. Then my mom jumped in. It's so heartbreaking when family turns their back on you. But we'll always love them, no matter what. Oh, please. I ignored it. I knew they were baiting me, trying to get a reaction. Then came the direct messages. From family I hadn't spoken to in years. Why can't you just make peace with Ashley? Family is everything. Don't you think you're taking this too far? Your sister is devastated, and you're just letting her suffer? I deleted every single one. Then, the anonymous messages started. At first, it was vague. Some people don't deserve to be mothers. I blocked the account. Then another message came. Be careful. Not everyone deserves to raise their own child. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was a threat. I didn't sleep that night. And the next morning, my phone rang again. An unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. Hello. A pause. Then a woman's voice, professional, distant. Hi, is this my name? Yes. This is Dana from Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous report expressing concerns about your pregnancy, and we need to schedule a home visit. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the counter, my breath catching in my throat. What? I understand this may be surprising, Dana said calmly. But we do have to follow up on all reports. I let out a shaky laugh. Ashley. It had to be Ashley. I forced my voice to stay steady. Right. Of course. You can come by whenever you want. After I hung up, I just stood there. For a long time, I didn't move. Ashley had already ruined my wedding, turned my family against me, harassed me for years. And now? She was trying to use the system against me. I should have been scared. But I wasn't. I was done. This was war. And I was going to win. The CPS visit was almost laughable. A woman in her 40s showed up at my house 2 days later, clipboard in hand, expression neutral but kind. Her name was Dana, and I could tell from the moment she stepped inside that she already knew this was a waste of time. I led her through the house, answering her questions as calmly as I could. Do you have a support system in place? She asked. My husband. His family. Our friends, I replied. You know, the people who actually care about me. She made a small note on her clipboard. Have you had any altercations with family members recently? I smiled tightly. Define altercations. She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw understanding in her eyes. You don't have to say it, she said. I've seen this before. That was all I needed to hear. By the time she left, she had already reassured me that there was no case. Unfortunately, we do have to follow up on all reports, she said at the door. But between you and me? It was obvious from the start that this was retaliation. I nodded. I had expected this. But hearing her say it out loud still made my stomach turn. Ashley had officially crossed a line she couldn't come back from. And I was going to make sure she felt it. ####. That night, my husband and I sat at the kitchen table, our phones between us. We need to send the cease and desist, I said. Now. He nodded. I already spoke to the lawyer. It's ready to go. I exhaled slowly, my heart still pounding from the events of the last few days. They won't stop, you know. I know. He reached across the table, squeezing my hand. But this puts us in a position of power. If she contacts you again after this, we can take legal action. I stared at my phone, hesitating for a second. A small, stupid part of me, the part that still wanted to believe my family would come to their senses, felt like I was making things worse. But then I remembered. I remembered Ashley standing in my yard, smiling at me through the window. I remembered the anonymous threats, the messages calling me an unfit mother. I remembered the CPS report. My jaw tightened. I hit send. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Ashley's reaction came faster than I expected. The very next day, my lawyer forwarded me an email she had sent in response to the letter. For pages long. I didn't even have to open it to know what was inside. I read the first paragraph. Then I stopped. Because it was exactly what I expected. Ashley was in full victim mode. She wrote about how this was a betrayal. How she had always been a loving sister who only wanted what was best for me. She genuinely had the audacity to say, "I don't know how you could do this to me when I'm already suffering so much." Like she hadn't spent years making my life miserable. Like she wasn't the one who started this. I deleted the email without reading the rest. Let her scream into the void. I wasn't listening anymore. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. But then, my parents got involved. Because of course they did. 2 days later, my phone rang. Dad. I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. I had already ignored 3 of their calls this week. I knew what this was about. But this time, I picked up. His voice was tight, like he was holding back anger. Are you happy now? I leaned back in my chair. Oh, incredibly. He let out a sharp breath. You're really taking this to the extreme, aren't you? You mean, setting boundaries? Yeah, I guess I am. You sent your own sister a legal letter, he snapped. Over what? A misunderstanding? I laughed. Actually laughed. A misunderstanding? She called CPS on me, Dad. A beat of silence. Then, the worst thing he could have said. Well, maybe she had a point. My stomach dropped. What? You're pushing away your family, shutting us all out. Maybe people are worried about what kind of environment that baby will grow up in. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. Are you serious right now? My voice was shaking. I'm just saying, if you weren't so hostile, maybe none of this would have happened. I gripped the edge of the table so hard my fingers ached. You abandoned me on my wedding day, I said, my voice dead calm. You let Ashley spread lies about me. You ignored me for 3 years. And now, when she pulls this insane stunt, you still choose her over me. Dad sighed, like he was tired of this conversation. We're not choosing anyone. We just want to fix things. I closed my eyes. Then tell Ashley to stop. Silence. And there it was. They weren't going to stop her. Because deep down, they didn't want to. I nodded to myself, like I had just come to some unspoken conclusion. Okay, I said quietly. Then we're done here. Dad scoffed. Oh, don't be so dramatic. I hung up. And this time, I didn't feel an ounce of regret. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. But Ashley still wasn't finished. That night, my husband's phone buzzed. He frowned, looking at the screen. That's weird. What? I asked. He turned the phone toward me. It was a message from Ashley. I grabbed it, my hands shaking as I read. I know, my name, has shut me out, but I thought maybe you'd listen to reason. I just want to be part of this baby's life. That's not too much to ask, is it? Family is supposed to stick together. You're her husband. Can't you talk some sense into her? My stomach twisted. Even after everything, she still thought she could get to me through him. My husband shook his head, disgusted. I'm blocking her. Wait. I swallowed hard. Send it to the lawyer first. We forwarded the message and then blocked her on everything. And that was it. The final straw. Ashley had officially violated the cease and desist. We filed for a restraining order the very next morning. It was granted. And just like that, Ashley was legally forced out of my life. No more messages. No more fake accounts. No more showing up at my house. It was over. For the first time in years, I felt free. But even then, a small voice in the back of my head whispered, what if she doesn't stop? For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. The restraining order was in place. Ashley was legally forced to stay away from me, my home, and my family. No more messages. No more phone calls. No more showing up like some horror movie villain, smiling through my damn window. But I still didn't feel safe. Because Ashley? She was the type of person who would always find a way. And I was right. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. It started with weird activity on my social media. A few days after the restraining order was granted, I noticed new accounts following me. No profile pictures. No posts. Just random, empty usernames. At first, I thought maybe they were bots. Then I got the first message. You should be careful. Some people don't deserve to be mothers. I stared at my phone, my stomach twisting. Blocked the account. The next morning, another one popped up. Some babies aren't meant to be with their birth mothers. My blood ran cold. I showed my husband. He immediately took my phone and started typing. "We're reporting this to the lawyer." I nodded, but my mind was racing. Ashley was escalating. Again. And I had no idea what she was going to do next. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Then came the call from my landlord. I was in the kitchen when my phone rang. I saw his name on the screen and frowned. "Hey, what's up?" "Hey, just wanted to check something with you." He sounded hesitant. "Your sister called earlier." I felt my stomach drop. "She what?" "She said she was helping you with a move and wanted to discuss breaking your lease early." I nearly dropped my phone. She told you I was moving?" My voice came out shaky. "That's what she said. But I figured I should call and confirm with you first." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I'm not moving. Ashley is not helping me with anything. Please don't give her any information about me. At all." "Got it," he said quickly. "I'll make a note." I thanked him and hung up. Then I just stood there, gripping the edge of the counter, my heart pounding. She was actively trying to screw with my life. Again. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. That night, I did something I never should have done. I called my parents. Not because I wanted to hear their excuses. Not because I thought they'd actually do the right thing. I just needed to hear them say it out loud. I needed to hear them admit that they weren't going to stop her. Mom picked up on the second ring. "You have some nerve," she snapped. I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Me? I have nerve? You sent your own sister a restraining order." "Over what?" "A few messages." I clenched my jaw. "She called Child Protective Services on me. She was worried about you. She tried to get me evicted. She was just trying to help." I felt like I was going to be sick. There was no reasoning with them. There never had been. "She's dangerous," I said quietly. "And if you keep defending her, then you are too." Mom scoffed. "Oh, don't be dramatic." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. Then I said the words I should have said years ago. "We're done." Mom laughed, like she didn't believe me. "Sweetheart, you don't mean ah." I hung up. And this time, I blocked her number. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. 2 days later, my husband's mom called. I was in the nursery folding baby clothes when my phone rang. I smiled when I saw her name. "Hey, Mom." But the second she spoke, I knew something was wrong. "Sweetheart, I don't want to alarm you, but Ashley reached out to me." The air left my lungs. "What?" "She sent me a message on Facebook. A very long one." I gripped the dresser, my knuckles white. "What did she say?" "She said she was devastated that you cut her off. That she was heartbroken over the restraining order. And then she asked me to help her." I swallowed hard. "Help her how?" "She wanted me to talk to you. To convince you to reconsider." I felt something deep, ugly, and raw rise up inside me. "She thinks she can manipulate you." My mother-in-law's voice was firm. "She can't." I told her very clearly that I would not be getting involved. That we support you. And then I blocked her. I let out a shaky breath. "Thank you." "Of course, sweetheart. I just thought you should know." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I appreciate it." After we hung up, I just stood there, staring at the tiny baby onesie in my hands. Ashley wasn't stopping. She wasn't giving up. She was just changing tactics. And I had this horrible, sinking feeling that she wasn't done yet. I should have known Ashley wouldn't give up. She had lost every battle. She failed to guilt-trip me, failed to manipulate my husband, failed to use CPS against me. The restraining order meant she legally couldn't contact me anymore. But Ashley? She wasn't the type to follow rules. I just didn't expect her next move to be this unhinged. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. It started with a knock at the door. It was late, past 9 p.m. My husband and I had just settled in for the night when we heard it. A slow, deliberate knock. I froze. My husband's entire body went rigid beside me. We weren't expecting anyone. I grabbed his arm, whispering, "Don't open it." He nodded. Slowly, carefully, he walked to the peephole. He stiffened. Then, without looking at me, he muttered, "It's your parents." My stomach dropped. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. He didn't open the door. Instead, he flipped the security camera feed onto his phone, and we watched. Mom and Dad stood there, shifting uncomfortably, like they weren't sure if this was a good idea anymore. Mom had her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Dad kept glancing at the door, then at his phone, like he was expecting someone else to show up. I whispered, "What the hell are they doing here?" Then my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "We need to talk. It's important." I stared at the screen. Then another text. "It's about Ashley." I didn't respond. Neither did my husband. We just waited. And after a few minutes, my parents finally gave up. Mom let out a frustrated sigh, muttered something to Dad, and they walked back to their car. I should have felt relieved, but I didn't, because whatever that was, it wasn't normal, and I had the sinking feeling that Ashley was behind it. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. The next day, I got my answer. An email. From Ashley. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Subject: I hope you're happy. Body: I just wanted you to know that I hope you can sleep at night, knowing what you've done. You've ruined my life. You turned our family against me. You made me out to be some kind of monster when all I ever wanted was to love your baby. I just wanted to be included. But I see now that you never cared. So congratulations. You won. You got everything, and I got nothing. I hope it was worth it. Goodbye. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. I sat there, staring at the email. Something about it felt off. Ashley was dramatic, sure. But this wasn't her usual game. I showed my husband. He frowned. Do you think she's serious? I don't know. I swallowed hard. It almost sounds like a goodbye message. He exhaled slowly. I hate to say it, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe she's finally letting go. Maybe. But something in my gut told me Ashley wasn't the type to just let go. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. I didn't respond. But later that night, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something in me, the same feeling that had been gnawing at my gut all day, told me to pick up. I hesitated, then answered. Hello. A pause. Then a man's voice. Hi. Is this my name? Yes. This is Mark. Ashley's ex-husband. My breath caught in my throat. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. I hadn't spoken to Mark in years. The last time we saw each other, it had been awkward, a chance encounter at a restaurant a year after my wedding. We exchanged pleasantries, but it was clear we were both avoiding the elephant in the room, Ashley. So why the hell was he calling me now? I forced my voice to stay calm. Hi. What's going on? He exhaled sharply. Look, I know this is out of nowhere, and I wouldn't have reached out if it wasn't serious. But he hesitated. I think you should know that Ashley tried to contact me yesterday. My stomach twisted. Okay. What did she say? She wanted to meet up, he said. Said she needed to talk to someone who understood. A chill ran down my spine. She was really emotional, he continued. Said she lost everything. That no one cared about her. That she felt like she had no purpose anymore. I gripped the phone tighter. Did she say anything about me? He hesitated. Then yeah. She blamed you. Said you ruined her life. And then she said something weird. My heart pounded. What? She said. If I can't have what I want, then neither can she. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. If I can't have what I want, then neither can she. She was talking about my baby. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. My husband must have seen the color drain from my face because he immediately put his hand on my back. What? What is it? I told him. His entire body went stiff. That's a threat, he said. His voice was low. Dangerous. We need to go to the police. Now. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. We did. I showed them the email. Told them about Mark's call. Explained everything, the CPS report, the fake eviction attempt, the harassment. And you know what? This time, they actually listened. Because Ashley had violated the restraining order. And that meant they could arrest her. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. She was picked up 2 days later. My parents? They went ballistic. Mom called me, screaming about how I was destroying the family. Dad left a voicemail telling me I would regret this for the rest of my life. I blocked them. Because the only thing I regretted? Not doing this sooner. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Ashley spent a few nights in jail before getting released. I don't know what deal she worked out, and honestly, I don't care. Because after that, she stopped. No more messages. No more fake accounts. Just silence. And for the first time in forever, I felt safe. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. My baby was born 3 months later. A beautiful, healthy little girl. When I held her for the first time, I felt something deep in my chest. A fierce, unshakable love. And I knew, right then and there, that I had made the right choice. I would never let anyone, family or not, threaten her. She would grow up safe, surrounded by people who truly loved her. Not manipulators, not narcissists, just family that actually deserved to be in her life. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. And Ashley? I haven't heard from her since. But sometimes, late at night, I catch myself checking the cameras. half expecting to see her standing there, smiling. Because deep down I know, people like Ashley, they never really go away.